Hey guys, I am so excited because this week it begins. We start our sex series, and this is something that I am both really excited for and quite nervous about. The next 3 weeks, we're going to be talking about stuff that the church, like the Big C church by and large, tends to kind of avoid. Or the church hits it way too hard and way too strict and then ostracizes a whole lot of people. And over the next 3 weeks, we're going to try to be doing the balancing act of those two things. How do we, in these next few weeks, as we talk about sex, how do we balance grace and truth? How do we balance love and acceptance and welcoming and saying that there are, and balancing holiness at the same time? So this first week, what we're going to be talking about is we're going to be diving into Genesis chapter 1 and 2, and we're going to be looking at the very first human beings, and we're going to notice a few really key important things. One is that humans were sexual before we were sinful. I think that this is so key for our students to say that, like, these sexual urges that teenagers are feeling, it is actually something designed by God, and that repressing your sexual urges isn't something that God calls us to do. He says to hold on to it until marriage. The second thing that we're going to be getting into is just that this point of marriage of Adam and Eve, man and woman at first, is God's ideal. And that's the main idea that we're going to be driving home, is that everything outside of this painting of ideal, one man, one woman together forever, for life on earth, everything outside of that is not ideal. And that's just as simple as it gets. So everything LGBTQ is missing the mark. It's not what God designed. Now, does that make them horrible people that we should shun and never speak to? No. It makes them sinners just like everybody else is sinners. All of us miss the mark in constant different ways. And so we're going to be balancing that of how do you love and accept and welcome somebody in, and at the same time say this way that you're living is missing the mark. It's sin. It's not ideal. And that, I think, is going to be where our conversations are mostly going to land. We're going to be talking about this painting, this picture of ideal that God draws up in Genesis 1 and 2. And the thing that I want to encourage you with the most over this week is to just start conversations that deal with the sexual nature of our students. Because from freshmen to seniors, all of our students are sexual beings, and they're coming into that more and more every week, month, and year. And so many of them feel this stigma that, oh, this is an aspect of myself that I cannot talk about at church because sex is bad. And what we're trying to do this week is break down that barrier and say, hey, this is yet another thing that we can talk about, that this is a safe space and it's okay. So this week, I just want to encourage you and remind you of two things, like one thing and two ways to do it, is just this week, be shock-proof. As you try to set this space to be a safe and welcoming space for students to talk about their sexual natures, don't be surprised. Don't show that you're surprised. Because some of the things that kids may say could really shock you, really throw you off and surprise you. And I want to encourage you, don't show that that's happening. Because when you do, it may cause students to shut down and say, oh man, that's not even the half of it. But I can't tell my small group leader the other half because this shocked them, this surprised them. And so how you do that is kind of two things. One, in my mind, is I always tell myself, watch your face. So when somebody says something really shocking, then it's just telling myself, you know what? Don't make your face, like, watch your eyebrows, watch your face. Don't let your face convey what is happening inside. And the second thing is literally telling myself in my head, be shock-proof. Be shock-proof. Don't get surprised. And when that happens, it opens up the conversation for even more possibilities. Because this week, we're going to be talking about this ideal that God sets up. And next week, we're going to be talking about sexual integrity versus purity. And so next week, the conversations that you can have really hinge on what you do this Sunday. If you get surprised and flabbergasted and you say, oh man, that's horrible, then next week when we talk about sexual integrity and how a kid can restart and try to keep going after Jesus even though they slept with their girlfriend, their boyfriend, they won't talk about that next week if this week they feel like something is unsafe. So, all of that to say, I think that this week is going to hold some really cool conversations. I think that this week is going to be setting up some really amazing and rather intense conversations. And so I hope that you can be here for both. I hope that you can invest in your kids in such a cool way over these next 2-3 weeks that we can be setting up a moment for you and your small group to have that is incredible. That's my prayer. That over the next few weeks, you'll be able to talk about things of a sexual nature that would never come up in conversation any other way. All of this is to set you guys up to have an incredible small group experience where you can invest in your kids in an awesome way. So guys, I am praying for you. I'm praying for this weekend. I'm praying for this series. And if there's anything that I can do, if you have any questions or anything like that, please let me know. I've got the small group leader guide below. If it would be helpful, I can also attach my sermon manuscript if you think that that would be helpful for your conversation, so that way you can walk in even more prepared. Let me know. And any questions, any concerns, please drop those in the group chat. Guys, I love getting to serve with you, and I am thrilled about this week. I can't wait to serve with you this Sunday night.